Galactic Year 60714, 3 hours before contact. Location, Trelvax Expanse, Dominion Sector, Galactic Core Highway 09. Fleet status, engaged retreat. They had never known fear. Not real fear. Not the kind that grips every breath like a noose and drains even machines of logic. The Sarkin Dominion, a brutal empire of synthetic warlords and bioforged generals, had ruled over 70 civilizations across 3 galactic arms. Their fleets were endless, their weapons unmatched, and their cruelty, their message. They didn't negotiate. They dismantled. Planetary governments fell in hours. Defiance was treated as entertainment. The Sarkin concept of mercy was leaving a moon intact so survivors could tell the others what they'd seen. Until that day. Until that signal. Until it arrived. A red signal in the dark. Aboard the Sarkin dreadnought Oblivion Shear, General Vector monitored the siege of Zenthri Prime, the last holdout world of the Valerii people. Status? He growled through his voice modulator, which layered each word in harmonic dissonance to weaken the minds of nearby organics. Planetary shields holding, reported a drone lieutenant. But morale has collapsed. 1 more hour and surrender is mathematically inevitable. Vector stood tall, skeletal armor gleaming in orbital light. As expected. And then it happened. A single red ping on their long-range array. Not a fleet. Not a warning beacon. Just a ship. Small. Unregistered. Human. No message. No response to hails. Just drifting at the edge of the sector. Watching. The mistake of curiosity. Scan it, Vector commanded. The tech drones complied. Their scanners washed over the vessel, sleek, dark metal, ancient Terran make. It's unarmed, one drone muttered. No visible weapons. No combat AI. No support fleet. No known class. Vector sneered. A relic? A mistake. Destroy it. But before the command finalized, the ship sent a signal. Visual only. The transmission played in perfect silence. A single human stood on the bridge, clad in matte black armor. No insignia. No faction. Their face was hidden beneath a sealed helmet. They raised their hand, not in greeting. In warning. The signal cut. And the Sarkin war grid crashed. System collapse. Within 9.3 seconds of the visual feed ending, the Oblivion Shear's entire fire control network went offline. Missiles launched themselves at empty coordinates. Energy weapons refused to power. Even internal gravity destabilized, turning some decks into zero-G kill zones as Sarkin soldiers were crushed against bulkheads. Vector roared. Is this a virus? Trace it. Negative, screamed the remaining drone techs. It's not digital. It's not even a signal. We're being observed. Observed. The word shouldn't have meant anything. But it spread like rot through the Sarkin network. Vector's subcommanders began evacuating without orders. And the human vessel still hadn't moved. The vessel with no emissions. Across the galaxy, dozens of powers received fragmented reports. A Sarkin fleet halting mid-assault. A human vessel appearing where none should exist. And worse, the Dominion pulling back. The Yexri clans called it an anomaly. The Council of Spires debated if Earth had returned to military action. The Kaldari philosophers whispered the term Stair Protocol, an ancient concept in pre-Exodus Terran doctrine. Weaponized presence. Not an attack. A message. We're watching. That's enough. Vector's last error. Desperate, Vector assembled his elite fleet wing and targeted the human vessel manually. All power to kinetic weapons. We'll crush it with mass. As the barrage launched, he ordered visual lock. And that was the mistake. Because as they zoomed in, they saw the human vessel wasn't entirely solid. Parts of it flickered in and out of space, a fractured phase signature. A ship that existed across dimensions. Some weapons hit. Most passed through. But those that struck? They bent. The kinetic force curled back on itself like twisted metal origami, Impossible physics. The Sarkin flagship split in half. No blast. No sound. Just absence. And on every Sarkin console, one line appeared. You were warned. Galactic Emergency Protocol, Class Omega. The Council of 12 met in emergency quorum. If a single Terran vessel could neutralize the Sarkin elite, said Grand Speaker Arloven, then we must consider the unthinkable. They're back, muttered General Jexcor. Not as conquerors. Not as diplomats. As something else. The Sarkin fleets withdrew from 6 sectors that day. The human vessel remained behind, still unmoving. Just watching. Systems around it destabilized. Not by force. By presence. It didn't fire a single shot. But across the stars, every species asked the same question. What happens when it decides to? Legends in the void. Whispers began across frontier worlds. That the vessel had no crew. That it was piloted by a single mind, the last of the ancient Terran sentinels. That its purpose was not war, but remembrance. That if it ever blinked, an empire would die. Some claimed to see it moving between sectors at speeds too fast to calculate. Others said it didn't move at all, but time moved around it. And on worlds that had once mocked Terran silence, monuments were quietly erected. No names. Just a shape. A human figure, helmeted, one hand raised. Staring. Moments after Oblivion Shear's collapse. Coordinates, Trelvax expanse, edge of Dominion space. The Sapphire Vow, an emergency response vessel dispatched by the Galactic Council's diplomatic corps, arrived too late to stop anything. Where once the mighty Oblivion Shear had held dominion over the skies, only debris drifted, perfectly bisected, edges clean as a scalpel wound. But there was no radiation. No heat signature. No battle damage. Nothing, except for a terrifying absence. Is it still here? Whispered Captain Nyrothass, a Yalari empath bred to remain calm even in supernova conditions. Her sensor officer answered with a single blink. Yes. It's still watching. The ship that wasn't entirely real. The human vessel still floated. No weapons deployed. No emissions. No radio traffic. And yet, every ship within 100,000 kilometers reported intermittent quantum lag, as if reality itself hesitated in its presence. Some ships reported seeing it in multiple locations at once. One pilot, a hardened Sarkin war veteran, went catatonic after locking eyes with the ship's forward viewport. When his mental feed was decoded, the last image his brain received wasn't the ship. It was a human eye, suspended in blackness, looking back. It blinked. He never spoke again. The Black Archive wakes. The Galactic Council had long feared this moment. Buried deep beneath the oceans of the waterworld Asylum 3 was a classified archive, older than the current Council's formation. Labeled, Terran Contingency, Omega Class. Only 3 people in the known galaxy had access. When it opened, what they found wasn't a strategy. It was a warning. Handwritten in ancient human script. If they stare, do not respond. If they move, evacuate. If they speak, listen. And remember why we stayed silent. But what came next was not silence. It was motion. The human vessel moves. It drifted forward. 1 meter. Then another. By the 10th meter, every active fleet across 6 systems received the same audio pulse. Not a message. Not a demand. Just a sound. A low-frequency hum that vibrated through hulls and bones, stirring genetic memory so deep that even post-biological entities shuddered. The hum matched an ancient Terran war signature, Operation No Protocol. The doctrine activated when humanity no longer sought victory. Only reminder. And reminders? Were final. Operation No Protocol, declassified. The Council's panicked retrieval teams decoded fragments from pre-fall human archives. The No Protocol was not about war. It was about perception. Weapons weren't required. Nor ships. Nor soldiers. Just a vessel, imbued with human intent so intense, so focused, that its presence alone broke enemy formations. A psychological algorithm paired with temporal field manipulation. The stare doctrine. Show them what we could become, then let them imagine the rest. Fear multiplied by silence equals surrender. The original documents described the vessel as a ghost loaded with humanity's last memory. That memory had returned. Civilizations begin to fracture. In the Valkyrie Highmind's capital, the collective AI screamed for disconnection. They remembered the ancient losses, fleets that never returned, knowledge erased from time, cities unmade not by destruction but by conceptual erosion. Do not look at it. The Valkyrie minds echoed in terror. Do not try to understand it. Even the mighty Sarkin Dominion, scattered, damaged, still vast, issued a sector lockdown for all territories bordering the expanse. Ships attempting to approach the human vessel were recalled under penalty of permanent neural disassembly. Because by now they understood. The ship wasn't there to attack. It was there to force memory. And memory was a weapon. Nazil the Hunter. There were still fools. One of them was Nazil, a mercenary warlord from the crimson-blooded Dravik. He had never known fear. Never bowed. And he believed the stories were just propaganda. This is just a human relic, he snarled. It's alone. Vulnerable. He approached with his cruiser, the Bone Screamer, weapons primed, anti-psionic fields active. As he drew near, he broadcast live across 3 networks, bragging, boasting. He fired his first salvo, direct hit. Or so he thought. The moment the torpedoes crossed within 1,000 meters of the vessel, they disappeared, not detonated, not deflected. Erased. And in their place, Nazil received a single visual. His own death, playing in slow motion. From inside his own skull. His ship disintegrated from the inside out. No explosion. No trace. Only his final scream, broadcast across the network. It looked at me. It knew me. It forgave me, and that was worse. Council debate ends in collapse. Panic gripped the council. No consensus could be reached. Their fear wasn't that Earth had returned with a fleet. Their fear was that this was Earth's fleet. Just one ship. Unkillable. Unfathomable. Unwilling to speak. Yet unstoppable. Then the signal changed. The human vessel finally transmitted something new. Not a warning. Not a weapon. A story. The transmission that changed everything. All across the stars, in every language, the transmission played. It wasn't video. It was memory, inserted directly into the minds of the listeners. They saw a ruined Earth, scorched not by war, but by restraint. Humans walking away from victory, sealing their weapons behind thought-locked vaults. The rise of the stare doctrine, not as conquest, but as a vow. We will not raise our hands. Unless you forget what they can do. You terrorized the galaxy. We watched. And now we remind. The vessel vanishes. As suddenly as it had arrived, the human vessel blinked once, and vanished. No warp trail. No trace. No radiation signature. Just a lingering sense of being watched. Systems slowly came back online. Ships moved again. But no one celebrated. Because across every fleet, every station, every species, every single being had dreamed that night. A dream of standing alone on a ruined battlefield. And a human figure standing opposite them. Helmeted. Still. And slowly, raising its hand. Aftermath protocol initiated. The vessel was gone. But the fear remained. All across the stars, normal operations resumed, on the surface. Ships flew. Trade lanes reopened. Empires pretended to breathe easy. But deep inside, every admiral, every chancellor, every warlord asked the same question. Where did it go? Because the human vessel hadn't just disappeared. It had erased its presence from causality itself. A Sarkin mathematician studying the anomaly committed suicide after muttering. It never left, it just stopped being looked at. And in quiet rooms the whispers began. Earth has returned. The tribunal's secret meeting. On a gas giant's hollow moon, the Galactic Tribunal gathered off record. No archives. No transcription. Just 12 of the most dangerous minds in the galaxy, all leaders of military blocs, black market networks, and council-funded research syndicates. And one empty chair. "Do we believe it was Earth?" one asked. "Does it matter?" replied another. "They showed us that fear alone dismantles fleets. That is power. Terran or not." "What's the plan?" asked Commander Lure, whose species had once attempted to invade pre-Exodus Mars. "We can't sit idle." The meeting paused when the empty chair pulled itself back. Sat down. And a voice whispered from nowhere. "You forgot your place." The room lights went dark for exactly 9.9 seconds. When they returned, one tribunal member was missing. No blood. No scream. Just an empty datapad, with a phrase written in Terran Standard. "This is mercy." The renegade dig team. On the edge of Saldar Ix's scarred moon, a small excavation crew discovered something ancient. Beneath 10 kilometers of petrified crust, they uncovered a Terran hull. Not ruined. Not buried. Stored. The ship was embedded in a stasis field, humming with low-level energy. On its hull, no registry. Inside, a single chair. No crew. No controls. Just a helmet resting atop the dash. A data crystal activated as they entered. It displayed an image of the stars. And a whisper. "The stars once feared us. Then they forgot. Now they remember." The dig site was sealed the next day by an unknown Black Flag fleet. All personnel vanished. Fleets began to fold. Weeks later, reports began trickling in. A Grellan war convoy rerouted itself 400 light-years away from human exclusion zones. A pirate king from the Shadow Arcs offered tribute to an unknown Terran contact, despite no confirmed presence. The Vokari Empire dissolved one of its outer fleets after receiving a single symbol on a private channel, a human eye, half closed. The message wasn't military. It was cultural. It was memory. Galactic warlords who had once terrorized the Spiral Arms now feared the gaze of something that might not even exist anymore. And that made it more dangerous than anything physical. Admiral Kiro's gamble. But not all were convinced. Admiral Kiro of the Iron Scepter Fleet refused to believe in ghost stories. He deployed a probe toward Sol, the Terran home system. Despite its deadlight shroud and ancient sensor nullification layers, the probe survived orbit. And transmitted footage. Footage that shook even Kiro's titanium-plated nerves. Cities fully intact. Energy signatures matching pre-fall human tech, but amplified. A tower stretching from the planet's core into orbit, surrounded by floating Terran symbols in constant motion. And on the last frame, a single human. Standing. Facing the probe. Raising their hand. And smiling. The probe imploded. Without heat. Without sound. Just reversed into itself. Kiro never issued another order again. He spends his days drawing the same image over and over, a helmeted figure with no face. Cult of the Silent Return. Across fringe worlds, a new faith emerged, the cult of the gaze. They worshipped nothing. They preached nothing. They just gathered in silent circles, wearing blank black helmets with mirrored visors, mimicking the transmission from the vessel. Some say they were harmless. Others say that on one world, a single gaze cultist stood in front of an approaching armada, raised their hand. And 80% of the fleet refused to fire. The ships turned around. The soldiers resigned. No threats. No violence. Just the possibility of retaliation. The archive of reason activates. Hidden deep inside the Council's inner data core, a fail-safe algorithm woke itself. It hadn't activated in 50,000 years. It was written in Terran quantum script, a language that no longer existed. The AI running the archive froze as the message unfurled. If they return, remind the stars. We were not gods. Just remembered too well. And fear is the greatest armor. And then, the final entry. Stage 3 begins upon the second stair. No one knew what Stage 3 meant. But everyone knew what was coming next. The second stair. Aboard the peaceful merchant world of Lorithel, known for its neutrality and diplomacy, a new star appeared in their night sky. At first, astronomers celebrated. A supernova? A wandering sun? But as telescopes focused, they saw it wasn't a star. It was a ship. The same vessel. Somehow, in orbit. And for the second time in galactic history. It stared. No comms. No threats. Just watching. The world froze. Every channel broadcast the image live. And this time, entire civilization surrendered to nothing. No conflict. No invasion. Just the fear that the stair might become something worse. Galactic date 60,715.9. The second stair lingers. The vessel hadn't moved. It hadn't fired. Hadn't spoken. Hadn't sent a single data packet since its appearance over Lorithel. But its presence, its awareness, was enough to do what wars couldn't. Civilizations froze. The Vun plutocracy declared full demilitarization of 6 Outer Rim sectors. The Sarkin Dominion withdrew its fleet to its homeworld, enacting their ancient fallback protocol. Lock the sky. Even the Gralef Syndicate, pirates who feared nothing, jettisoned their high-value loot into open space, as an offering. No threat had been made. And yet, the galaxy obeyed. Inside the stair. For the first time since its reappearance, the vessel opened a narrow band channel. One ship. One voice. A Terran voice. Flat, genderless, steady. We are not angry. We are not returning. We are remembering. And now, so will you. Across the stars, the channel forced itself open on every interface. Every terminal. Every personal implant. No encryption. No bypass. Just one memory. Broadcast through time itself. The memory unleashed. The stars darkened. Not literally, but every being, organic or synthetic, saw the same vision in their minds. A world burning not from invasion, but from choice. A council chamber filled with human leaders arguing for mercy, not retaliation. An entire armada powered down and buried beneath Mars' surface, sealed with a vow. We will never be first to strike. But if the stars forget, we will remind them. And the creation of the Stair Doctrine, a weaponless war form designed to resurrect fear through presence alone. We terrorized no one, the memory voice whispered. We simply taught the galaxy what it feared most, consequences. The last war was never fought. The memory included no death tolls. No fleet numbers. No battles. Just faces. Aliens from hundreds of species, kneeling, not to a conqueror, but to a decision. They had pushed humanity. Tried to break them. And in return, they were shown restraint with infinite capacity. A restraint that made them beg Earth to leave, to forget. And Earth did. Until now. Because the fear had returned. And so had the reminder. Lorithel, ground zero of the change. As the stair loomed in orbit, Lorithel's planetary systems failed not from damage, but from compliance. Traffic halted. AI subroutines shut themselves down. Crowds gathered in silence. At the Planetary Senate, the Speaker of the World stepped outside with no speech prepared, fell to their knees, and looked skyward. We remember, she whispered. Please, don't stare again. And then, the vessel sent its final message. Not spoken. Felt. Then carry it forward. This is not a punishment. This is a gift. A second memory. Across the stars, surrender to history. Planets that once enslaved worlds passed legislation to unchain them. Warlords returned weapons sealed in ice. Even pirates sent coordinates of ancient battlegrounds where Terran relics lay buried, as tribute, or perhaps, confession. No demands had been made. Yet the galaxy was rewriting itself, in the shadow of a ship that hadn't fired a shot. Because now, everyone understood. This wasn't about war. It was about what war had cost, and what humanity had paid in silence. The vessel's final act. The human vessel turned. It aligned with no system. No star. Just the deep dark between galaxies. And it accelerated. Faster than light. Faster than causality. As it passed beyond the reach of sensor or memory, it left behind one final pulse, broadcast not in sound, but in gravity. A ripple that would echo through the void for centuries. Not as a threat. As a heartbeat. Humanity's presence had returned for a moment. Just long enough to remind the stars. We are still out here. And we are still watching. Epilogue: The Doctrine Lives. From that day onward, the phrase, "Do not make them stare again," became law. Taught in schools. Whispered in wars. Engraved into ship hulls across quadrants. A doctrine of restraint wrapped in myth. Some still debate if the vessel was ever real. But those who looked into its face? Who felt it see them? Never doubted. Because when you've been seen by the last memory of Earth, you never forget. Milky Way humanity didn't need to fight. They just stared. Milky Way. You reached the end of another void narrative, a story where humanity isn't just a species. It's a threshold. If this story made your blood chill and your imagination burn, subscribe now. Because the galaxy remembers Earth. But you remember the stories that were never supposed to survive. Collision. Subscribe to the Void Narratives Collision. 4 tales of silent vengeance, forgotten gods, and the terrifying beauty of restraint turned weapon. Shield, because one day, they'll stare again. And when they do, you'll want to know why. Backhand index pointing right. Subscribe now. The stars are watching.